Good morning everyone. I hope everybody is safe at home. Now today we will continue the similar topic, continuation to the last class. Let us hope everybody is doing well. Now let us move forward. So watch this slide. So it is like a Diwali festival. On the Diwali festival, we will see the vibrant colors of the fireworks. These fireworks are showing different kinds of colors: red, yellow, green, apple green, and so on. So how do these vibrant colors and beautiful colors were formed inside the fireworks? So it is due to presence of some metals like strontium, calcium, iron, and so on. So these metals are making the fireworks vibrant and vivid. Now you can watch the slide. This is the slide of this is the spectra of a hydrogen atom. So this kind of line spectra works like a fingerprint. Line spectra works like a fingerprint in identifying the atoms and molecules. As we know, if we want to find any person, we will take the help of fingerprints. In the same way, if you want to identify any atom present, we'll take the help of a line spectra. For example, if we want to identify the metals present in a planet, then we'll take the help of the light coming out from that planet and we'll analyze using a spectroscope. The spectroscope will separate all the wavelengths coming out of the planet, and based on the wavelengths we can recognize the kind of atom present, because every wavelength will be noted on the screen of the detector of the spectrometer. So we will compare the data obtained by the spectrophotometer with already the data which is present with the scientists. They will compare the data. If they matches, they can identify the elements like sodium, magnesium, and so on. Every element which is obtained in the data, it makes sure that it will present in the same planet. In this way, we can identify the atoms and molecules which are present on the cosmic bodies. Now, so this is the importance of atoms and molecules in our daily life. Now let us move to the continuation of the topic. Already in the last class we discussed about the subatomic particles like electron, proton, and neutron. Now today let us know how these electrons, protons, and neutrons are arranged inside an atom. So this arrangement of these subatomic particles inside an atom is called as atomic structure. Atomic structure. So this atomic structure was explained by different scientists. Let us move to the first person who explained about the atomic structure and arrangement of these subatomic particles inside the atom. So we cannot see the atoms with our naked eye. We cannot observe the atoms with our human eyes. That is why we will take the help of microscopes, and even microscopes were failed to give the clear picture of the atoms. That is why scientists have imagined, and they were done some experiments. Based on the experiments, they proposed the concept of atomic structure in the form of some models. As like if we cannot bring an elephant to the classroom, we can bring the model of the elephant. In the same way, the scientists have brought or proposed some model to explain the structure of the atom. The first scientist who proposed the structure of atom with his model named J.J. Thomson. We already know that the electron, the first subatomic particle discovered by J.J. Thomson when he was analyzing the cathode rays, he discovered the electron inside the atom. So, based on the discovery of electron, he proposed the concept of atomic model. He thought that electron is only the particle present inside atom. Why? Because he don't know about the other particles present inside the atom. That is why he took only the help of electrons and proposed the concept of atomic structure, atomic model. He proposed the atomic model before the discovery of atomic nucleus. As he was the first scientist to explain about the atomic model, he know only about the electron and his and its charge. That is why he explained the atomic structure only using electrons. According to J.J. Thomson, an atomic model consists of only electrons which are embedded inside the atom. According to Thomson, an atom is a solid sphere inside which electrons are present like this. Atom is a sphere and this complete atom is filled with positive charge, and the electrons are embedded inside it. The negative charge is present here and there. Okay. So, just like in a soup of complete positive charge, electrons are floating here and there. So, he thought that the total mass of an atom is distributed uniformly inside the atom. Just like he also compared this atomic model with watermelon. If you compare watermelon, in watermelon, how do you observe? We can find the red color part present inside an atom, inside the watermelon, is like the positive charge, and the black color seeds are like electrons. So, this is also known as plum pudding model. As you can observe in the slide, a plum cake is made up of small plum seeds and the pudding. So, the plum cake is present inside which some plums are there and the pudding is spreaded all over. In this way, Thomson has proposed an atomic model comparing with the watermelon and plum cake. But this model was failed because there is no much evidence for the existence of positive charge inside the atom. He did not know about the positive charge, just he thought that electrons are present inside the atom, and to balance this negative charge, to balance this electrons, there is a counter charge. It is, he imagined that there is a positive charge which is spread all over the atom. So, to overcome this problem, the scientist named Rutherford proposed an atomic structure using his famous alpha ray scattering experiment. He did the alpha ray scattering experiment. In his experiment, he took alpha particles which are having high amount of positive charge and which has heavy mass compared to the size of the positive charge. He took the alpha rays and he struck these alpha rays onto the gold atoms which are present in gold foil. The complete setup is inside a vacuum chamber to avoid the atmospheric disturbance. In his experiment, he found that most of the alpha rays are passing through the gold atoms and very few alpha rays were scattered, and small number of alpha rays were bounced back. So, he conducted alpha ray scattering experiment to find out whether there is a positive charge present inside an atom or not. If it is present, how it is distributed inside an atom. He thought that as Thomson proposed the positive charge is uniformly distributed inside, he was expecting that all the alpha rays will come back, they will bounce back without passing through the atom, but later it is proved wrong. He concluded that the atom consists of lot of empty space. Inside atom there is lot of empty space, most of the atom is empty. And second thing is large amount of positive charge present in the center. In the center, lot of positive charge is concentrated at very small space. So, these are the two conclusions he made with this alpha ray scattering experiment, and he proposed the theory. Rutherford proposed a theory based on his conclusions from alpha ray scattering experiment. He proposed a atomic model which is known as nuclear model of an atom. Nuclear model of atom. The main postulates of this nuclear model is all the positive charge particles are present at the center of the atom, and it is called as nucleus. Nucleus is present at the center of the atom. Nucleus is present at the center of the atom, and electrons are revolving around this nucleus in well defined orbits. Well defined orbits. In well defined orbits, electrons are revolving around the nucleus, just like planets revolving around the sun. He compared that all the electrons are revolving in the well defined orbits as like planets revolving around the sun in a fixed orbits. So, that is why this model is also known as a planetary model. Planetary model of an atom. Planetary model of atom. And third postulate he has given is the size of nucleus is very small. Size of nucleus is very small compared to size of atom. Okay. So, what does it mean? For example, if you compare the size of atom with a large stadium, football stadium or cricket stadium, so it may be with the radius of 90 meters. In such a large football stadium, big football stadium, the center will be like a butterfly sitting on the grass. So, he compared the size of the atom with the size of the butterfly sitting on the grass of the butterfly sitting on the grass in a stadium. That means such a huge difference occurs in between the size of the nucleus to size of the atom. So, these are the main important postulates given by the scientist Rutherford. First point is all the positive charge is located inside the nucleus, and second point is all the electrons which has negative charge are revolving in a well defined orbits, and third point is the size of the nucleus is very small compared to size of the atom. And many scientists have accepted all these points, but they found some limitations in the Rutherford atomic model. The main limitation of this Rutherford model is any particle which is in continuous motion, which is continuously revolving around the nucleus, will accelerate due to attraction force of the positive charge. As the center nucleus has positive charge and electron has negative charge, there is definite existence of attraction force between these two charges. Now, while electron is revolving in the orbits, it will be influenced by the high amount of positive charge located in the center. Now, due to this attraction force, electron is accelerating in a circular orbit, but while it is accelerating, while it is revolving around the nucleus, it will lose some amount of energy. While it is losing energy, it will slowly change its path and ultimately fell into the nucleus. It will continuously lose its energy and velocity, and eventually it will fall into the nucleus, and atom will explode, because positive charge and negative charge, when they come together, there will be an explosion. But practically it is not true. No atom is exploding like that. All the atoms are found to be stable. That is why Rutherford model has failed to explain the concept of atom in 100%. It was somehow it was successful, as it was defined the position of positive charge inside an atom and electrons revolving in well defined orbits, and the size of the nucleus is very small compared to the size of the atom. But it was failed to explain the existence of electron inside the atom, how it is existing, what is the base for the existence of electron in the fixed orbit. This concept was not clearly explained by Rutherford. So, later this concept was clearly explained by another scientist named Niels Bohr. The scientist Niels Bohr, in the year 1913, he proposed Bohr's theory of atom. Bohr's theory of atom. While he proposing the Bohr's theory of atom or Bohr's model of an atom, he took two concepts into consideration. One is, he considered Rutherford's model, the best points inside a Rutherford model, and second thing, he took the Max Planck theory into consideration to explain the position of electron. Let us know what is Max Planck theory. The scientist named Max Planck proposed about the emission of energy by an hot body. Any hot body or any black body which has high amount of energy will radiate energy in the form of discrete particles. Discrete means there will be a discontinuous transformation of energy, but not continuous. Continuous means the energy is transmitted like a continuous wave, transverse wave, but according to Max Planck, energy is not transmitted continuously, but it is transmitted like discontinuous particles. So these discontinuous particles of energy has equal amount of charge, equal amount of energy. Each discrete particle has the energy equal to h nu. Max Planck proposed that the energy of this packet, okay, he called it as energy packet. Each energy packet consists of energy equal to h into nu. What is this h nu? He thought that energy of the packet is directly proportional to the frequency of radiation. How much energy is radiating? Based on that, he proposed an equation. Energy of the radiation is directly proportional to frequency of radiation. It depends upon the frequency of the heat energy transmitted. So to remove proportionality, he introduced a constant known as h. This h is called as Planck's constant. Planck's constant. He has given a value of 6.625 into 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second. H has a value 6.62 into 10 to the power of minus 34 joule second, or 6.62 into 10 to the power of minus 27 erg second. How will you get this value? From this equation, E is equal to h nu, then h can be written as nu E by nu, energy by frequency. We know that the energy has the units joules and frequency units are 1 by seconds. So it results joule into second. That is why Planck's constant has the units of joule into seconds. So this is the proposal given by Max Planck. So Niels Bohr utilized the concept of Max Planck and Rutherford and proposed an atomic model, which is widely accepted model of an atom. According to Niels Bohr, every atom consists of negative charge, which is electrons are revolving in orbits which are called as shells. He proposed a word shell. All these orbits, as proposed in the Rutherford model, he thought that they are well defined orbits. So in place of orbits, he given one more name, that is shells. So shells are present around the nucleus. Electrons are revolving in these shells. While revolving in the shells or orbits, electron does not lose any energy. That is why it does not fall into the nucleus. So it does not lose energy when it is revolving in the orbits or shells. These shells were named as K, L, M, N. Like first shell, which is closer to the nucleus, is given name K, and next which is away from the nucleus, L and M, and so on. Like this, names were given for the shells. And we can also name them as n is equals to 1, n is equals to 2, n is equals to 3. That means first shell is given the number 1, second shell 2 and 3, and so on. Like this, Bohr has proposed some numbers to the orbits or shells, and he also clearly stated that when electron is present inside an orbit or shell, it does not lose its energy. Every orbit or shell consists of fixed amount of energy. Fixed energy. Every orbit or shell has fixed energy. These are called discrete shells or discrete orbits. That means every shell individually exists with fixed amount of energy. That is why these shells are also called as stationary shells. Stationary shells or stationary orbits, because electron, when it is revolving in a fixed shell, it does not lose energy until and unless there is a disturbance from outside. Okay, let us see. So every orbit has fixed amount of shells, that is why these are called stationary orbits. And when electron want to jump from one orbit to other orbit, either it has to absorb energy or lose energy. These orbits are also called as energy states. Energy states. Why? Because the energy of each orbit is quantized. What is quantized? So this is a new word, the quantization or quantum. This name was given by the scientist Max Planck. According to him, energy is transmitted like discrete particles. Each discrete particle is called as quanta or photon. Quanta or photon, which has the energy equal to h nu. So he took that concept, Niels Bohr took that concept, and he is saying that each and every shell is having fixed amount of energy. That is why they were called as energy states. Look at this slide. Here you can watch the steps and a ramp. Here, what is the difference between a staircase and a ramp? In a ramp, energy is passing continuously. There is a ball rolling on the ramp which will pass continuously from top to bottom. But if you consider the staircase, the ball is rolling slowly, step by step. In the same way, Niels Bohr thought that each and every shell has fixed amount of energy. The shell which is closer to the nucleus has very low amount of energy. When the shells are moving away from the nucleus, the energy of the shells increases. The energy of K shell is lesser than, energy of L shell is lesser than, M shell is lesser than N shell. And these were given the energies as E1, E2, E3, E4 and so on. The energy of first orbit or first shell is E1, energy of second shell is E2, energy of third shell is E3 and fourth shell is E4. In this way, the energy states were given a fixed amount of energy. For example, when electron which is present in second energy state want to jump into third energy state, then until unless you supply energy, it is not possible. Why? Because E1 has, for example, 1 h nu amount of energy, E2 has 2 h nu amount of energy, E3 has 3 h nu amount of energy. Now, if you observe the energy difference between E2 and E3, for example, if you write the change in energy between these two shells, delta E that is equals to E3 minus E2, that is equal to E3 has energy equal to 3h nu, E2 has energy equal to 2h nu. Now what is the difference? 3h nu minus 2h nu is equals to 1h nu. That means this much amount of energy has to be supplied to move an electron from second energy state to third energy state. So this is the beauty of this Bohr's atomic theory. He could able to explain clearly about the electron transitions which are occurring inside an atom, which are related to the energy. He explained the concept of Max Planck in a beautiful way in explaining the atomic model. Now let us move forward. But even though he explained clearly about the structure of atom, he was also failed in explaining some concepts like splitting of lines in line spectra. Bohr's atomic theory successfully explained the hydrogen atom spectra. He clearly explained how the line spectra of hydrogen atom occurs, but he was failed to explain about the splitting of these lines which are present in hydrogen atom spectra. Even these lines are finely divided when it is observed under microscope. So this splitting of lines in line spectra was not explained by the scientist Niels Bohr. He was failed in explaining this one, and he also failed in explaining the spectra of atoms which has more than one electron. He failed to explain the spectra of atoms who has more than one electron. That is why this theory was failed. So this theory also has some limitation. It was some extent it was successful in explaining the structure of atom, but he was failed to explain this one. And it is also found that it does not explain Zeeman effect and Stark effect. Zeeman effect and Stark effect. What is this Zeeman effect and Stark effect? Zeeman effect is nothing but splitting of spectral lines. One line will be splitted into fine lines, many number of lines when it is kept in the magnetic field. When you apply magnetic field, a single line will split into number of lines. This is called a Zeeman effect. This effect is not explained by the scientist Niels Bohr. This is the failure. Next one, Stark effect. The same effect, if it is observed under the positive charge and negative charge influence. That means when it is kept inside an electric field, the splitting will takes place. This was explained by the scientist Stark. That is why this effect is called as Stark effect. Stark effect is not explained by the scientist Niels Bohr. In this way, Bohr's model has some limitations. To correct these limitations, the scientist named Sommerfeld corrected Bohr's theory by proposing the elliptical orbits. He proposed elliptical orbits along with circular orbits. According to him, every atom consists of circular orbits. First orbit will be only circular orbits according to Sommerfeld. He took the concept of Bohr and added a single point that every atom consists of some elliptical orbits. You can watch in the slide. First shell will be circular in shape, but after that there will be inclusion of an elliptical orbit, single elliptical orbit. In third shell there will be two elliptical orbits, and he thought that first orbit has L is equals to 0 and n is equals to 1. Second orbit L is equals to 0, n is equals to 1, here n is equals to 2, L is equals to 1, n is equals to 2. So, in this way he could able to explain the concept of elliptical orbits, introducing elliptical orbit to explain the splitting of spectral lines. With the spectral elliptical orbit concept, he could clearly explain the splitting of single line into fine lines. But this Sommerfeld model also failed in explaining the atomic spectra of the other atoms like other than hydrogen. Only it is possible, it is successful in explaining the spectra of hydrogen atom, but it is failed to explain all the other atoms. That is why the next scientist named Schrödinger, Erwin Schrödinger, developed a concept known as quantum mechanical model. According to quantum mechanical model, instead of the circular orbits, two-dimensional orbits, he thought that electrons are moving around the nucleus in particular regions. We could find in particular regions, these regions where we can find the electron maximum number of times. So, such regions he named as orbitals. According to Erwin Schrödinger, according to quantum mechanical model, electrons are revolving around the nucleus in particular regions. Instead of orbits, two-dimensional orbits, electrons are revolving in three-dimensional way. Wherever it wants, it is moving. So, such orbits, such places he named as orbitals. So, the maximum probability of finding the electron is called as orbital. Next concept is quantum numbers. We have four kinds of quantum numbers: principal quantum number, which is shown with the letter small n, proposed by the scientist Niels Bohr. Principal quantum number explains about the energy of the orbit and size of the orbit. If n value increases, for example, this is n is equals to 1, this is n is equals to 2. If you compare the size of the orbit, for n is equals to 1, size of the orbit is small. For n is equals to 2, size of the orbit is more. That means as n value increases, the size of the orbit also increases, and also energy of the orbit, E1, E2, E3 and so on, like this. As n value increases, energy of the orbit also increases. So, this is about the principal quantum number. The second quantum number is azimuthal quantum number. Azimuthal quantum number proposed by the scientist Sommerfeld. It is designated with the small l, letter small l. So, it explains about the subshells present inside a shell. There are four kinds of subshells named S, P, D, F. S stands for sharp, P stands for, you can look at in the slide. Based on the L value, these subshells are 4 types: S, P, D, F. S stands for sharp, P stands for principal, D stands for diffuse, and F stands for fundamental. Now here you can watch in the slide, these orbitals has the L values 0, 1, 2, 3. For S orbital, L value is 0 and the shape of the orbit is spherical. It is just like a sphere, football or volleyball, any ball kind of structure. And P orbital has L value 1 and it is like a dumbbell. For example, you can watch here, it is just like a dumbbell. If it is present on x axis, it is called as px orbital. There are totally 3 kinds of p orbitals. P orbitals are 3. So if it is oriented along the x axis, we call it as px. If it is on y axis, we call it as py. If it is on z axis, we call it as pz. So x axis has dumbbell shape and d orbitals has double dumbbell shape. So like this, we have 4 kind of orbitals. S orbital has spherical shape, P orbital has dumbbell shape, D orbital is having double dumbbell shape, and F orbital has a complex shape which cannot be shown here. So like this we have 4 kinds of orbitals. Now if you go to third kind of quantum number, that is magnetic quantum number, which is shown with ML, which is called ML, and it is proposed by the scientist Landé. Now according to magnetic quantum number, the spatial orientation, how they are oriented in the 3-dimensional space is explained. Orientation of orbitals is explained with this magnetic quantum number. For example, S orbital is oriented equally in all direction on x axis and y axis and z axis. In all direction it is oriented symmetrically. If you consider p orbital is oriented on x axis. If it is oriented on x axis, we call it as px orbital. If it is oriented along y axis, this is x axis, this is y axis, we call this orbital now as py orbital. If it is oriented along z axis, we call it as pz orbital. Like this, the orbital orientation is explained by this quantum number, that is magnetic quantum number. If you consider the orientation of d orbitals, we have 5 orientations for d orbitals. For example, dxy has the orientation like this. It is in between x axis and y axis. Already we know that d orbital has double dumbbell shape, x axis and y axis. If it is dyz orbital, it will be in between y axis and z axis. 2 lobes are there. If it is dxz, x axis and z axis. Now in between the orbitals these are present. So like this, d orbitals are present in between the axis. Some d orbitals are present along the axis. If the lobes are along the x axis and y axis, this d orbital is called as dx square minus y square orbital. If d orbital is oriented only along the z axis, this orbital is called as dz square orbital. So the spatial orientation of orbitals is clearly explained by the magnetic quantum number. And the last quantum number, that is spin quantum number. Spin quantum number explains about the spin of the electron. For example, electron is 2 electrons, maximum 2 electrons can be accommodated in a single orbital. For example, 2 electrons are present in a shell like this. Now, if one is rotating along the axis in clockwise direction, anti-clockwise direction, the another has to rotate in clockwise direction. That means these 2 electrons must rotate along their axis in clockwise and anti-clockwise directions. So, the spin of, if we consider the spin of the clockwise direction electron as plus half, the other electron must have a spin of minus half. So, like this 4 quantum numbers could able to explain about the presence of electrons inside the orbital. These quantum numbers are just like the address of an electron. It clearly explains where the exact position occurs inside an atom, where the electron position occurs inside the atom. So, these quantum numbers are like just like address of the electron. Now, let us move forward. Let us know about the electronic configuration. Electronic configuration is explained through Euler's diagram. We could able to explain the electronic configuration. That means electronic configuration is nothing but how the electrons are arranged inside the orbitals. We already know that we have 4 kinds of orbitals: s orbital, p orbital, d orbital and f orbital. How these electrons are arranged inside the orbitals present inside an atom, that is called Euler's diagram. We have 2 methods to explain electronic configuration of an electron. One is NLX method and second one is box method. For example, let us take hydrogen atom. Hydrogen atom has the electronic configuration of 1s1. Here 1 indicates the principal quantum number. That means hydrogen is located in the first shell, and here S indicates the subshell present in the first shell. So, hydrogen now located in the s orbital, and 1 indicates the orientation. How many electrons are there? Only 1 electron which is rotating in the hydrogen atom. So, like this we could able to explain the complete address by using quantum numbers, and we could able to write the electronic configuration using the Euler's diagrams. Now, let us see here we have different electronic configurations of different atoms. Hydrogen has 1s1 electronic configuration. If you write in box method, it can be notated like this: 1 with 1 orientation. Helium has 1s2, lithium has 1s2, 2s1, beryllium, boron, carbon. Like this, every atom has different electronic configuration. We could write in the NLX method or in the box method. Like this, we could able to explain the atoms and molecules. Now, it is the time for summer project. Write the electronic configuration of first 20 elements using Euler's diagram. And second question is, discuss to what extent Rutherford model is successful in explaining the atomic structure. Now, so complete these 2 questions and understand clearly about the atoms and molecules. Use your textbooks and internet to answer these questions. I hope everybody is having the basic idea about the atoms, what are the things present inside an atom like electron, proton and neutron, how these are arranged, how different scientists were explained the arrangement of electrons, protons and neutrons inside an atom. So, everything about the basic fundamental concepts of atoms and molecules we were discussed in these 2 sessions. I hope everybody is doing well, and thank you very much. Thank you all.